Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So yesterday I finished this book which is The Vegetarian, and usually what I do is after finishing a book I came up and I talk about that book at that point of time. But yesterday I don't know how to convey my feeling into words. I genuinely watched 2 3 shots just to see that how people are conveying their feeling or how they are actually speaking about this book, because I don't know, I get the gist of the book but I don't know how to say it out loud, and that's why I just thought that okay, I will make the video tomorrow. So here I am making the video on the book The Vegetarian. So the book begins with the main character, which is Young Hai. I don't know if I just am mispronouncing her word, because the book is based on Korea. The author is Korean. He has written this book in Korean language and then it was translated into English. So I don't know how actually to pronounce her name. So she has a dream, and then in that dream that made her become vegetarian for certain reason. If you will read the book you will of course get it. I don't want to just do the review, like I don't want to tell the whole thing about the book, because if someone is watching the video, and I just don't want for them to get everything. So the girl had a dream, basically. She was married for almost 5 years, and then one day she wake up. Her husband saw her that she was, just standing, like just standing like a ghost. Something not genuinely ghost, but he felt that. And what she was doing, that she was just taking every meat present in the house. So if you know Korea, people are mainly non-vegetarian. You will rarely find vegetarian people because they eat meat, every kind of meat they consume. So it's not like they are very less on eating meat, or you will being vegetarian is very common. It is not very common being vegetarian there. So what she was doing, she was just collecting every meat, every kind of meat, and of course meat is very expensive. Her husband wake up and then goes to her that what are you doing, and then she was like, oh, I'm turning into vegetarian. That is how it begins, that she was turning into vegetarian. But it became so much of fuzz in her household that you will get to see that her father literally slapped her so hard that made her hurting herself via a knife and bleeding so much, though. So this turned into so much of extent that for her choosing of being vegetarian was inculcating in such a difficult thing for everyone to accept it. So this is how it begins, and the story has 3 parts. So the first is the vegetarian, when she turns into vegetarian, and how her family reacts, how they are so much putting pressure on her and just feeding her meat forcefully just so that she can eat it. And they even succeed on putting or force feeding her meat, but she spits the meat out. That is how the story begins. And then you can also see under of sexual assault from her husband, from her brother-in-law, and it is very horrifying and very terrific. The thing is, first when she was sexually assaulted by her husband, but when the whole thing happened and when her husband came, and when her husband returned and saw her, she was just lying down, that nothing has happened to her, and she just became very normal after that. What she was, and then she again become like that. So it was very disturbing to even read. It will just kind of creep you out, I think so. This is kind of story, it is very horrific, not in the ghost way, but it is, you can feel a terror. So the second part is just her being assaulted by her brother-in-law in a different manner, not like he forced her, but it is kind of because she don't get anything. I think is also very disturbing what I feel, that her husband, so she has a sister and a brother. So her husband like her sister, and then her sister's husband like her, and that is very different. And what it is written is also in a very creepy, horrible manner. However, both of them define their partner's sister is very, just the second chapter of the book. I feel every line, or every after every paragraph, I would just feel like, what exactly it is, what I don't get it. it was like that. And now you will get to the third part. The third part I felt, you know, very painful, very sad. That is what I feel entire the third part. It was very sad, you know. Every paragraph, every other paragraph, every other page is very stressful, very sad. It goes in a very, you know, hurtful way. It just choose a way more of a hurtful thing. And then she just want to become from human being to trees. It is very different. I genuinely don't understand how to just inculcate everything what is in my mind into words. That's why I took a break from tomorrow of not saying it out loud or saying it on camera. I still am not able to convey the whole thing. And the ending was also very different. I mean, when I was, you know, on the last 2 3 pages, I was like, there has to be something that will define. I thought that she might die. You know, that is what I feel, because the pages were very 2 3, the pages are left was 2 3 pages. And then the ending was very different. It was not, it just, the ending did not conclude on something. But that is how it is. And talking about how much I rate it, I honestly don't know, because honestly I don't get it, you know, how to rate or what to rate. But if you talk about, or if you ask me that would I recommend to someone, yes or no, both, you know, it is both of the feeling. Because if you get the grief, or if you get the sad part of it, it is a good read for you. But if you don't, I don't think so it is. And I'm honestly not, and honestly I don't even think so I am able to convey what I have felt, you know. Because the entire of me telling what it is, I am myself is very confused when it comes to the choice of book. Because there is so much going in this book. It is, although it is 183 pages, a very short book. I myself finished it in 3 to 4 days. That fast how I read. Um, this is a very short book. You know, you should read it if you have read, you know, books before. I don't think so. It should be something you should go on the first. Like if you haven't had read any book, I don't think so you should pick it. If you have read few books, that then you should definitely pick it. And then, because I do see people telling that, oh, what, she just want to become a tree. I don't think so that is the gist of the whole book. Yeah, that it is. I am very confused when it comes to give you review, when it comes to talk about the book. Otherwise, if you have read books, you should definitely read it. If you haven't had read that many book, you should not read it, because there is so much going on. And I feel like, should I tell everything or should I not tell everything? If I tell everything, it would not be something for you to read, because this is something you should read and then you should get by yourself, rather than me telling you literally everything out there. So if you have read book, you should definitely read it. If you haven't had read books, you should just keep a pause and read other books, and then you should just read it. That is what I think. Of course, I could be wrong, I could be right. I don't know. That is what I feel. And yeah, this is all about this book. And honestly, I just don't get it, what to say, what to not. Although in the whole book I have underlined so much. I mean, of course you cannot see it, although the quality of camera is not that good. I've underlined it with pencil. Although underlined, I have, you know, marked the whole paragraph and everything. If I can just see if there's anything I can read for you guys. But you would not get the whole thing, because the story just, you know, it just goes like this. It does not, I mean, it's not in a bad way. It just goes like, take a dip, but maybe in a different way. So yeah, this is all about me reading this book and reviewing, you know, before finishing actually. You know, the thing is, I have got so many people, you know, I saw so many people, so many book talker who talks about book, telling that you should read this book. And then when what they tell would be majorly would be this is the story of a girl who turns vegetarian by a dream, and that just made me feel like what it could be. And and it is also won the 2024 Nobel Prize in Literature. It is a huge thing. And then I heard so many celebrities talking about this book, so I felt like, oh, what exactly it is. So you know I never thought that this book would be like this, because I've never felt them saying, because I've because when they would talk about or they would speak about that, I never had that feeling, oh, this is how the book will turn out. But when I read it, I was in a very different gaze, that, oh, this is a very different book, or is it this about this and this not. I don't know even if it is making sense or not. But yeah, when I saw them and then when I read book, I just felt that, oh, this is very different, because I have heard every other people saying that you should read the book, you should read the book, you should read the book. So I read this book, but what I feel them saying and what I feel after reading book is very different. That is what I think. Maybe I haven't had heard the actual people reviewing it. It was just maybe I have heard 2 or 5 seconds of people reviewing it. But that is all about what I felt, what I thought, and what I hope so I'm able to convey my whole thing. But if I've read books, you should definitely give it a try. This is very different for me also. So that is all about this book. Bye.